Hey, what is going on, everyone? Teddy coming at you once again with a late to the party review. Today, I'm going to dig into The Flame in the Flood. This is an indie game from January of 2017 by developer The Molasses Flood. Let's take a not so friendly journey down the river together with my official review.
We'll absorb every wind and current in the bosom of a worthy expedition. Whether we are weak and weary, whether we walk tall and brave, I'll be there for you. You'll be there for me in the dark, through the wind and the rain.
Developer The Molasses Flood delivers an extremely fun survival game experience with The Flame in the Flood. This was originally released in January of 2017. The Flame in the Flood sends us on a journey as a young girl with her pet dog. And I had such high expectations and excitement when I learned that the developers were previously all part of the teams that worked on BioShock, Halo 2, Guitar Hero, and Rock Band. So the goal of Flame in the Flood is to survive the 10-day trek down the river while doing our best to forage for food, materials for crafting, staying hydrated, with proper water supplies, and resting when needed. Our dog is a really cool companion. He searches out supplies and lets you know of any danger. A fun part is deciding where to stop along the river. It's important with the options that you're going to have to stop either at camps with fires. There are places with churches. There's a party area where alcohol could be important for healing. There's repairing locations for your raft and more. It isn't just these locations that cause the trek to be perilous, though, because you never know what you're going to find on these various stops and locations. You also have to deal with rain. There's rapids down the river, stumps within the water, cars, and even the land that you're trying to navigate around. Well, if you hit those things, they're destroying your raft, and it makes it much more difficult. Danger seems to come in random locations, and the animals that you run into, they just aren't very forgiving. The first animal that gave me fits was this boar, and I died from it multiple times. I mean, they basically put them in there, and if you make a mistake, they will mess you up, and that's the polite way to put it. There were numerous attempts down the river that I thought, hey, this is going really well. And literally, not 2 minutes later, I ran into something that completely ended my run. The crafting system is pretty user-friendly. I wish that it was easier to get a larger backpack earlier on, get those supplies, because I ran out of space quite quickly on every single one of my runs. And it doesn't really explain up front all that well that you can store a small amount with your dog as well as on the raft. You can do the raft when you're on the dock, but again, the game doesn't hold your hand through that. It's through trial and error that you're going to figure that out. When it comes to the development of the world, the art style and graphics, in my opinion, are up there with all of the AAA games. The gameplay is smooth and enjoyable, at least in my opinion. The lighting and the hourly progression from day to night is seamless. Believe it or not, this might sound crazy, but the thing that I enjoyed most throughout the entire game was actually the soundtrack. So I looked it up, and the soundtrack was made by Chuck Ragan. I hope I'm saying his name right. And I actually went out and purchased the soundtrack. I liked it so much.
I found myself on the mountain over blue sea, far above chaotic dwellings in the clouds to breathe. All I want is to cure this land sickness in me. All I need is food and water to set me free.
It helps significantly with the backcountry wilderness setting. It just marries so well with the world that the Molasses Flood developed for the game. I smiled, and I would start tapping my fingers and my thumbs and my feet and just having a good time whenever one of their songs would. Although it was kind of backcountry, it made me want to jam a little bit, and I thought it was absolutely perfect. I couldn't think of a better soundtrack for a game in recent memory. I enjoyed the gameplay, the music, the art style, the crafting system, and there's more obviously to like, but I did start to lose a little interest after a few hours. I think it's a game that I could pick up from time to time. I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to continue to have it downloaded, but I would have a hard time playing this exclusively, even for a week, let's say, 10 to 20 hours in 1 week. I might get a little bit bored, or it might get a little tedious in my opinion. But all games these days have repetition, especially one that if you want to get good at it. I understand that learning curve is there, and you want to continue to get farther, but there were a couple times where I'd hit that 4 or 5 day mark down the river and I would die. Like I said, I'd hit a boar, I'd hit an animal, and it would end my run, and I didn't want to start all over again. I have since learned that there are potential save points that you could reload into if you had died on the river. And if you're really skilled, you could do an endless mode, and I definitely don't have that ability at this point. So where does The Flame in the Flood rate on my personal scale? I give it a 7.5 out of 10, and that is not low in my opinion. I actually think there's so much to really enjoy about the game. I think it's definitely worth your time to give it a try. Don't shy away from it. There's a lot to really like here, especially for the survival strategy genre. This is up there. This might be my favorite or one of my favorites of the survival genre. So that's not an attack on the game. It might be more of my personal preference. Survival games get a little tedious to me over time. But I definitely think it's right up there with any of the other top survival strategy games. And you know what? I'm not sponsored, but if you are an EA Premier Access member, this is a free game on there. Go download it, give it a shot at least, nothing else. Again, just don't be afraid to jump in and shoot down the river and have some fun with it. You're going to run into some mean monsters and some good times. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you for diving into The Flame in the Flood with me. Please feel free to check out my other social media content on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. I post quite a bit. I stream quite a bit as well. So take a look and let me know what you guys think on that as well. And from here, I will see you all soon.